When Stella found out about the book, she asked if the whole reading could move to the beach so that all the time fairies could hear as well. Angel gave her a big hug and said, "Of course, great idea." Once everyone had assembled on the beach, after some swimming, diving, running, dancing, and loud shouting, Angel invited Stella to read the next part of the story. "I'd love to," shouted Stella, taking the pink manuscript and the big conch shell to project her voice. The crowd was huge, with about half of the thousands of time fairies having upsized and there already being hundreds of listeners from Marescimar. "Here we go," shouted Stella. Chapter 23, Gone. Back at Elven Avenue, everyone was wondering where Toll had got to. After he went down into the Jew's new private tunnel, he'd not returned. The next morning, he still wasn't back, and Nell was cross. "Why would he go off into the tunnel?" she asked. "I told him we needed to be careful." Solo convinced his mother that Toll must have had a reason to go off. "He really wouldn't go unless he had to," said Solo. "He's not answering my messages," said Nell. "Is he replying to you?" Solo screwed up his face. "Not yet," he said. "You don't think those thugs have him too?" asked Nell. "No," said Solo, "of course not." Although Solo couldn't completely hide the fact that he was worried too. To make matters worse, there was the headline on the daily paper: "Isla Thieve wins prize. Local woman awarded great honour." Nell groaned. "I can't stand it," she said. "The woman is such a fake." There beneath the bold type was a photograph of a beaming Isla Thieve with her hands raised above her head to form a V for victory. The newspaper reported that Isla Thieve had won a scholarship to study homeless children and the parents who abandoned them. She would be working at the University of the World in Drage. It's pronounced Drage, just in case some of you didn't know. Isla Thieve was over the moon, said the newsprint, and she promised to bring back her new skills to the place of her birth, Dragolan. Oh dear. The newspaper went on to report, "Mrs. Thieve is married to Overlord Thieve." I think that needs to say Baroness Thieve. Baroness Thieve is married to Overlord Filbert Thieve, who will accompany her to Drage. Isla says the Overlord's expertise is a great asset, and she's honoured to be travelling with such a fine man. Nell looked ill. How could this cruel woman, so full of lies, be chosen to study the needs of homeless children? And Overlord Thieve. Nell had heard so many things about Filbert Thieve and his horrible father, Brutus Thieve. She turned over the paper and read about the latest tennis tournament, but after a few moments she turned back to the front cover and reread the article about Isla. It was too much. "She's not a baroness," said Nell. "Why are they saying that?" Solo shrugged. "Well, it's wrong," said Nell. Solo made himself a drink and sat quietly, hoping that Toll was all right. "Are you tunnelling today?" Nell asked Solo. "Only if you're okay with it." "I have to be," said Nell. "I need you to try and find Toll." "Mum!" shouted Tilly, racing in and sitting next to her mother. "The children have gone." "What?" asked Nell, her face going white. "Where?" "They're not in their beds," said Tilly. "Why would they go?" "They were probably terrified," said Solo with a groan. "Petrel would have thought that they'd be targets if they stayed here." Nell put her head in her hands. "They don't trust anyone," said Solo. Tilly burst into tears. "But I love Squid," she said. "We were going to be best friends." Nell put her arm around Tilly. You still are, she said. We'll find them, I promise. Tilly gave her mother a weak smile. Solo gave Tilly a high five. They're very clever, said Solo. They'll stay safe. Can't you telepath them? Asked Tilly. No, said Solo. I will leave them a message at our special place, but they won't reply if they don't want to be found by me. Squid thinks you're wonderful, said Nell. Solo agreed. Definitely, he said. Solo suddenly caught sight of the newspaper headlines. What's this? He asked, staring at his mother in horror. Nell sighed.